Hello everyone and welcome back to game week 5 of the 23-24 PTC Therapeutics Premiership, where you join myself, Ryan Sipple, for another brilliant game, this time between Newcastle United Foundation and Aspire PFC. Let's go through the squads quickly, then the table, then I'll bring you the action live. Newcastle United Foundation are comprised of number 2, Aaron Guthrie, number 4, Ollie Crawshaw, number 5, Albie Morris, number 8, Lee Armstrong, number 9, Sam Smith, and number 10, Ethan Fisher. They're coached by Jamie Harrison. Aspire looking to make it 2 consecutive successful Premiership campaigns. Have number 2, Sally McNeil, number 7, Dan McClellan, number 8, John Baldwin, number 10, Jordan Williams, number 14, Bobby Williams, number 19, Brad Bates, number 20, Tom Kelly, number 26, Rosie Dack, their coach, John Baldwin. Let's bring up the live league standings. It's been a yo-yo all day, up and down between the top 2 teams. West Brom, having just beat Nottinghamshire by 9-0, have asserted themselves as the league leaders with a plus 80 goal difference, something that Aspire will be desperate to try and minimise. Aspire have already had a brilliant start to game week 4. They started with an emphatic 4-1 victory over Teesside. That one kicked off first thing this morning, and then following that they faced Teesside, in which they were 4-0 victors. Jordan Williams, Dan McClellan, John Baldwin and Brad Bates all on the score sheet. One thing that you'll want to keep an eye on across this game is the top goal scorer race. In that earlier 9-0 victory, a hat-trick for Marcus Harrison has seen him level Brad Bates on 25 goals across the season. So Brad Bates will no doubt want to add to his goal tally and put a little bit of daylight between himself and his international teammate. Dan McClellan on 17 was leapfrogged by Valentino Zegarelli, who also scored a hat-trick. So a lot to play for. Sam Smith, the most prolific of Newcastle United Foundation squad, he has scored 15. So our officials for this one in the centre, it looks like it will be Mark Kerrison, with assistance of Pete Taylor and Ian Harley. Another significant game taking place on Court B. Manchester United take on Leeds Chariots, something that could be really significant towards the bottom of the table. Manchester United looking to claw their way to safety. Nomad Knights picking up points and momentum in this final weekend. Sevenoaks have faltered slightly. Nottingham likewise, so a win for Manchester United in that one would see them go clear of that 10th place, which results in a Premiership playoff fixture against whoever finishes 3rd in the Championship. So that happens to be Norwich City. We was here last weekend for game week 5 of the 23-24 Championship season, and they seem to come out of nowhere to claim that 3rd position. So they'll have an opportunity to earn Premiership status. Teams just warming up ahead of what is certain to be an excellent game. We'll bring the table back up just to see how Newcastle have fared. 19 games played, 14 wins, which is absolutely brilliant. And without the 2 teams above them, they would surely be title contenders. It's just West Brom and Aspire are so dominant and just seem to come into their own, certainly in the latter stages and the latter weekends of a Premiership season. They've only drawn 1, lost 4, an impressive goal tally of 52, conceding just 18, so plus 34, 43 points amassed. So a win here would see them leapfrog Teesside in the standings. A draw would see them level them on points, but due to Teesside's more favourable goal difference, they would not surpass them. this Aspire's final game of the day. Tomorrow they play both West Bromwich Albion Throstles and West Bromwich Albion at 12:45. West Brom Aspire, that is both of their final game of the season. They have no games beyond that. So should they continue how they have started game week 5 with a vengeance, that will be the title decider. Newcastle United Foundation had a brilliant start to game week 5, an emphatic 5-0 victory over Nottingham. Ollie Crawshaw with a hat-trick. Sam Smith and Albie Morris both adding a goal to their names. I apologise, I got the match officials wrong. It looks as if Paul Yates will be centering this one, and I believe Paul Yates will also be the centre for the big one tomorrow between West Brom and Aspire. Mark Kerrison and Pete Westmoreland are his assistants. So it looks as if we've opted for the yellow WFA ball. And the teams are in their positions. Once we get underway, I can confirm the starting 4. Big cheer of encouragement from John Boulding, who just seemed to hit another level today. And we are underway. Ethan Fisher fires it into Ollie Crawshaw. Fantastic to see him back in action following a few weekends' absences. Sam Smith. Newcastle United Foundation, the only team that has managed to beat one of the top 2 this season. He secured a fantastic win over West Brom in game week 2, I believe. Game week 2 or 3. But Aspire penned in early on. Dan McClellan tries to turn defence into attack. So Newcastle United Foundation, Ethan Fisher in the lighter shade of green will be the designated goalkeeper. Their outfield players in a more of a tealy turquoise have Lee Armstrong, Ollie Crawshaw and Sam Smith, adorning the brand new Adidas Newcastle strip, which is quite nice, I have to say. Aspire have the familiar Tom Kelly in goal, John Boulding in the centre, Dan McClellan and Brad Bates on either wing. Ethan Fisher fires an audacious effort wide, well wide of that left-hand post. We know how much power he can generate on them 180 kicks. 2-on-1 in the process, so an indirect free kick to be taken by John Boulding into McClellan, pick off over to Brad Bates, into the box, crucial touch off Ethan Fisher, surely would have sent it into the side of Dan McClellan, who had an open net to aim at, had it reached him. Still 0-0 on Court B. Should there be any updates, I will of course bring them to you. Tom Kelly. into Dan McClellan. Feints to make contact, met by Ethan Fisher. Over to Ollie Crawshaw. Rotates really nicely. Bouldin to McClellan. Caught in two minds as to whether to try and control that down the line or immediately pass back to his captain, who tries to weave past Ethan Fisher. Bates into Bouldin. Heavy touch from Ethan Fisher allows John Bouldin to engage. No options on that right hand wing for Aspire. The left is your viewing it. Cracking game the last time these two met. It's all the way back in December. 4-2 that one finished. Sam Smith now trying to influence his team's attack. Back to Ethan Fisher. Strong play from Fisher. Surpasses Brad Bates, who remains the most advanced of the four Aspire players. Ollie Crawshaw just reversing into the side of John Bouldin, both claiming to be the victim in that passage of play. John Bouldin with possession, gets the foul. Jamie Harrison, the Newcastle United coach, just having a word with Ollie Crawshaw. Sam Smith. Strong play from Brad Bates. John Bouldin on the edge. Pick off over to Dan McClellan. Doesn't quite have the power to reach its intended recipient, but such a high intensity game early on. This battle between Bouldin and Fisher, one to keep your eye on. McClellan happily lets that roll out of play for an Aspire ball. 6 minutes gone. Newcastle 0, Aspire 0. Bouldin couldn't quite get the angle to generate any more power than that. McClellan across the face of goal. Tom Kelly called into defensive action now. Has to be careful of the oncoming Ollie Crawshaw. Absolutely sensational from Bouldin to just adjust his chair and guide the ball down the court. Brad Bates. Good interception from Ollie Crawshaw. Gets a round of applause from the substitutes to my left. Albie Morris and Aaron Guthrie. Kelly. Feint from Bouldin into the side of McClellan's chair. Aspire desperately trying to break the press of Newcastle. Across the box to Brad Bates. Just orientates the wrong way, and heavy contact with Ethan Fisher, who claims to be the victim in that passage of play. Had we seen Brad Bates rotate counterclockwise, we'd probably see the opening goal. Ethan Fisher's done very well to escape a yellow card there. Actually deemed to be in his favour. Could have been either way. If that is the case, same statement applies to Brad Bates. Such heavy contact. The referee and officials are afforded a much better angle to officiate than us down on the commentary, so no doubt he made the correct decision there. We've got another free kick for Aspire to be taken by John Baldwin. McClellan, closely marked by Sam Smith, just peels off his marker, and Brad Bates this time trying to force the ball in that left-hand post. A really aggressive game. It's a fantastic watch. Players do have to be careful though. Any further infringements, and we could see Paul Yates get a card out his pockets as Ollie Crawshaw and Baldwin having a little bit of contact off the ball. Into Baldwin, doesn't quite meet the ball. Now Armstrong driving out of his box for the first time this game. Such a feisty game. Crawshaw trying to switch it to Sam Smith, blocked by Baldwin, flicked to Ethan Fisher. 2-on-1 in favour of Aspire. Into McClellan. It's almost certain there's going to be a yellow card awarded at some point. This time the ball trapped as Ethan Fisher, not John Baldwin, wanted to yield in pursuit of that ball, and Jamie Harrison has come onto the court to argue his point on behalf of his player. The free kick goes in Aspire's favour. One of the most fiery games I've seen in quite some time. Just a testament to the competitiveness of this as Baldwin over to Bates, into McClellan. Fantastic readjustment from the Newcastle United defenders. McClellan almost opened the scoring. Contact once again. Fisher driving into Bates. Newcastle United's contingent to my left feel that Bates was driving to try and seek that free kick. It goes in favour of Fisher. Yates has been very lenient thus far. We've had 11 minutes, it remains goalless. Ollie Crawshaw brilliantly bypasses Baldwin initially, but the Aspire captain adjusts to just get round the goal side of the Newcastle number 4, keeps it in play. Round of applause from the Lee Westwood Sports Centre. Worth noting that West Bromwich Albion have to play Newcastle United Foundation as well tomorrow. 10:25, that one's going to kick off. There's Baldwin, just tips on his back wheels. Fisher. Little bit of contact with Ethan Fisher, not before the 2-on-1 was awarded in favour of Aspire. Smile on the face of Baldwin. Bates tries to guide it down to McClellan, doesn't quite make contact, so Ethan Fisher now forcefully trying to push his way up the court appeals from Brad Bates. It goes in favour of Newcastle and Ethan Fisher respectively. Fisher, controlled by Crawshaw, intercepted by Boulding. Switch of play, intercepted by Fisher this time. And this is truly a brilliant game of power chair football. Crawshaw past Boulding. Sam Smith vacates the space brilliantly to allow Crawshaw the room to roam. Wins himself a corner in the process. Ollie Crawshaw to take. Ethan Fisher on the edge of the box. Sam Smith on the back post. Guided goal bound from Fisher. Blocked by the stationary Tom Kelly, who hasn't had a great deal to do in the 14 or so minutes played. Has to maintain concentration levels should the ball come in his vicinity. It's not good viewing for Manchester United, who are trail by 2-0 on Court B. As always, live league table will be presented at the half-time break. Brad Bates switches the play. Guided goal bound from Dan McClellan. Now Brad Bates has a goal to shoot at. Lee Armstrong adjusts brilliantly. I really hope it's being translated well over the stream. The atmosphere here in the Lee Westwood Sports Centre is brilliant. Bates doesn't quite meet John Boulding, and to think I nearly missed commentary of this game. "15 minutes played, remains goalless. A draw would play into the hands of West Bromwich Albion as John Boulding appeals to Paul Yates. Ollie Crawshaw makes contact and he just brings in the players now. This will probably be the final warning. Any further infringement will most definitely result in one of them 2 cards residing in Paul Yates' front pocket. So direct free kick for Aspire. John Boulding just calling for a little bit of width. Bates just adjusts. Met by Fisher. Can't keep it in play. Boulding back down to Bates. Met by Sam Smith. 180 feint from Boulding. Smith still has possession. McClellan all the way over to Brad Bates. John Boulding acting as the screen. Engaged by Ollie Crawshaw. Flicks it to Fisher. Returning the pass, just flicks into the head of Ollie Crawshaw. And gives John Boulding a moment to just have a conversation with Brad Bates as to where he wants him positioned. This is the penultimate game of the day. Next up, on Court A, Sevenoaks take on West Bromwich Albion Throttles. On Court B, West Bromwich Albion take on Teesside. Fisher to take the resulting kick in. Down to Sam Smith. Just presents kindly to Ollie Crawshaw, who can guide an effort goal bound. Doesn't go as far as Tom Kelly. John Baldwin resolute in his defensive duties. Flicked to the edge. This is a chance for Ethan Fisher. Fires it goal bound. But just trying to understand the decision. It has resulted in a goal kick. No goal given. The Newcastle contingent to my left are not happy at all. I'm not quite sure the reason as to why that wasn't awarded. I'll re-watch it in the break. It remains Newcastle 0, Aspire 0. Brad Bates just reverses. Fisher, down to Crawshaw, down to Baldwin, McClellan. Fisher switches play. Ollie Crawshaw with an opportunity, rotated spin kick, doesn't quite meet contact. Crawshaw. Baldwin does a good job to force his way down that wing. Bates repositioned. Baldwin feints to McClellan. Has an attempt on goal. Final 15 seconds. One of the most entertaining halves of football you're ever likely to see, despite there being no goals. Fisher to Baldwin, switches play. Brad Bates millimetres away from making contact. Would have surely been a goal scoring opportunity, if not a dead certain finish for the league's current joint top goal scorer. Ollie Crawshaw, just a momentary lapse in concentration. We've had the regulation 20, so now into additional time there could be a fair bit. Been a number of stoppages in play as Bates just tries to force it round this time. Fisher adjusts. Crawshaw now has the responsibility of restricting the options of John Baldwin. It's good work from Crawshaw just to try and get in Baldwin's blind spot. Ricocheted out of play for an Aspire ball. We're ticking into a minute over the 20. Bates. Crawshaw having a brilliant game. So good to see him back. And that signals the half-time break. I've truly never seen a half of power chair football quite as dramatic as that. Newcastle United Foundation 0, Aspire 0. And if we can bring up the live league standings, you'll see that a draw here for Aspire would not be enough to see them leapfrog Aspire at West Bromwich Albion in the standings. They would go joint on points with them, but with West Brom's far superior goal difference, currently 17 goals better off than their title challengers, they would wrap it up, and not to mention that game in hand they have. So they have it all to play for in the second half. Newcastle United Foundation 0, Aspire 0. Join me shortly for the second half. Hello everyone and welcome back to what will soon be the second half in this fixture between Newcastle United Foundation PFC and Aspire PFC. Without question, one of the most entertaining, fiery, fascinating games I have ever had the pleasure of commentating on. We've seen a few comments in the comment section as to why that goal was disallowed. Having a conversation with the match officials, the whole ball had apparently left the court, so the ball had left the play before Ollie Crawshaw was able to pick out Ethan Fisher in the centre for a brilliant finish had it stood. So it remains goalless. Very fiery, as already mentioned. I really hope that intensity can be maintained across the second 20 minutes. It looks like it will be unchanged. It's on a knife's edge. It's so finely balanced that I didn't expect any changes to be made in that break. So Newcastle will have Lee Armstrong, Ethan Fisher, Ollie Crawshaw, Sam Smith, all having a brilliant game. Aspire have Tom Kelly, John Baldwin, Brad Bate and Dan McClellan. Keep your comments coming. I will be sure to keep a note of them. And I'd love to hear some predictions because I don't know which way to call this. It could go either way. It really could. A draw would be enough to see the match West Brom on point, but a far superior goal difference sees them stay in second. So they'll need a win here. They'll need to find that goal. They have 20 minutes to do so. Paul Yates, our referee, gets things underway in this second half. As there's appeals for 2-on-1 very early on in this second. Ethan Fisher shaping up to take the indirect free kick. Lucas thinks a 1-0 victory for Newcastle. They will need to prevent John Baldwin from influencing an attack here. Fired into the back wheel of Lee Armstrong. As he weaves his way round Lee Armstrong, met by Ethan Fisher. McClellan falls kindly to Brad Bate. Over to John Baldwin, not before Paul Yates had awarded a free kick in Newcastle's favour. Ethan Fisher to take. Out to Ollie Crawshaw. Again, contact between the two players, two captains. Brad Bates advancing down the right wing. Just cushioned into the side of Armstrong. Well organised with Ethan Fisher. Sam Smith just switches sides in the attack, hoping that Ethan Fisher can spearhead a break. But good play from Aspire early on to limit the space of Ethan Fisher and Ollie Crawshaw. Something that they started to grow in confidence with. Crawshaw now with possession, 2-on-1 in favour of Aspire. Crawshaw and Fisher too close to one another. Baldwin. Crawshaw never shies away from engaging in a battle. Fisher to Crawshaw, didn't quite get the power to pick out Sam Smith, so Baldwin regains possession. Now Bates. Flicked back to Baldwin, he's lining up a shot here, or a pass. Didn't quite have the angle he wanted, so Crawshaw able to limit the space. McClellan. Every decision, every passage of play gets appeals from the many people around the Lee Westwood Sports Centre. I don't think I've ever seen this many people dotted and situated around for a game. Only West Brom and Aspire typically commands an audience as great as this. You won't see it on camera, but in the mezzanine above where the camera is situated, there is so many people. Bouldin patiently waits to engage the 180, then looks for the pick-off, but Fisher brilliantly drives onto the ball. Fisher, right idea, fired with pace towards Ollie Crawshaw, looking for just a little nick. Ollie Crawshaw having a word with Paul Yates. Once again, appeals from many people around the sports hall. Miscommunication almost between Newcastle as Fisher fires it diagonally across the court to try and pick out Sam Smith, met by John Bouldin. Now Crawshaw trying to take it into the space. Forceful play from Bouldin in an attempt to dispossess. The Newcastle United captain Fisher waiting on the edge of the box, has to be careful of his placement, but good work from Ollie Crawshaw. Lapse in concentration there from Crawshaw, leaving that to roll out of play. Bouldin keeps it live. Bouldin intercepted by Crawshaw. This is proving to be the battle of the game between these two. Not quite sure if the metal on metal is being picked up over camera. That misplaced pass from Bouldin. Opportunity for Newcastle United. All stemmed from that mishit from John Bouldin. And Ollie Crawshaw, after 25.5 minutes, opens the scoring. What a fantastic game this is. They committed players forward in desperate search for that opening goal, and they found it. Newcastle United Foundation 1, Aspire 0. It went from Fisher, beautiful pick-off from Sam Smith. Ollie Crawshaw patiently waited, struck the ball off that left-hand post. And Aspire have a mountain to climb now. I've already spoken about the significance of the point accumulation. They're going to want to find 3 points in this game. Puts the onus on their other games. A shout out to Bold Finds and Jord watching. Thank you for tuning in and commenting. As McClellan tries to pick out John Bouldin. Dylan Kelsall tuning in, West Brom, from West Brom. He'll be happy with that goal from Newcastle United Foundation. But what a brilliant game this is. We have just under 13 minutes left to be played, plus any additional time. Aspire really have to commit players forward now, which will of course leave vulnerabilities in defence. As Brad Bates tries to find the equaliser almost immediately following Ollie Crawshaw's goal. McClellan just into the side of Lee Armstrong. Bouldin trying to work out a way past Armstrong and Ethan Fisher. I appreciate the comment, Jordan. Greg doesn't quite reach these levels. It's Bouldin. Trapped by Ethan Fisher. Weaves his way left and right past the Aspire captain, who has to maintain concentration and desperately try and prevent Newcastle inflicting any further damage on the current champions. Fisher reverses his way into the box, met by Tom Kelly. Nice pick off from Crawshaw, controlled by Sam Smith. Tom Kelly called into defensive duties. Contact off the ball between McClellan and Ethan Fisher. Fisher not too happy with it, but play continues. Just locked up in this top left-hand corner. Professional play from Sam Smith, just trying to wind that clock down, frustrate Aspire even further. As Fisher breaks up the passing lanes between McClellan and Bouldin, and that's really forceful play by Fisher. Matched by John Bouldin as Crawshaw dispossesses, play allowed to continue, met by Tom Kelly. That is probably the most advanced he's been all game and does a brilliant job in preventing Ollie Crawshaw from advancing any further. Just taking their time, now ticking into the final 10 minutes. Newcastle 1, Aspire 0 as he finds the gap. Sam Smith tries to return the favour to Crawshaw, just locked between Bates and Tom Kelly. But look how many players Newcastle have committed forward. They're not resting on their laurels and this 1-0 scoreline. They're looking to add further, which is a testament to their belief in their own ability, irrelevant of the opposition in which they're facing. Crawshaw into Tom Kelly, happy to let that roll out of play for a second. Successive kick in. Once again, doesn't quite have the power to roll out of play, but presents Crawshaw with an opportunity to engage in attack. Out for another Newcastle ball, and Crawshaw is having one of the games of his life here. As I've already mentioned, he wasn't present in game weeks 3 and 4 of the 23-24 Premiership season due to a medical operation, but he has not skipped a beat. He's filled back into this squad as if he was competing yesterday. No visible rust as one of the country's top young players. Another one, McClellan, engages play there. Over to Bates, fired into the side of Ethan Fisher's chair. A switch up for Aspire. Tom Kelly coming off. Rosie Hodgson coming on. So Dan McClellan now unfamiliarly adorning the yellow goalkeeper jersey. I'll try and get confirmation of that, but I don't want to take my eyes off the action. There's confirmation now as Brad Bates fires it back to John Bouldin into the box. Rosie Dack with her first involvement. Doesn't quite have the power to trouble Ethan Fisher. Crawshaw breaking up play, 2-on-1 surely in favour of Aspire, which is the decision from Paul Yates. Greg soon to be on TNT Sports, not necessary, for the FA Disability Cup, where West Brom will take on Aspire. Boom Bomb potentially on target, doesn't trouble Lee Armstrong. Much better than their earlier effort in their game against Leeds Chariots. Bates now lets it roll to the back of his chair. Hasn't been able to add to his 25 goals scored in the National League thus far in the 23-24 campaign. No doubt if he was able to get one in this one, it would be the most valuable of the lot. Less than 7 minutes to play. Once again, Crawshaw and Bolden making heavy contact with one another. Paul Yates just having a word with his official on the far side, Peter Westmoreland, and this time he gives a yellow card to both from the looks of it. Strong appeals from people situated in the Lee Westwood Sports Centre. I think Paul Yates' tether had run extremely thin, and his tolerance for the heavy contact seen on both sides has resulted in that yellow card being awarded to both parties. They have to be careful now. Neither will want to serve suspensions ahead of crucial follow-up games in game week 5. Newcastle to play West Bromwich Albion tomorrow, as Crawshaw doesn't let that yellow card alter his emotions, which can often be the case for a player as young as him. Such an old head on young shoulders, as Bolden now really has to just try and force his way up the court and something out of this game. As mentioned earlier, Newcastle United Foundation, the only team in the able to beat one of the top 2 teams thus far this season. They beat West Brom in game week 3, and it looks like they're on course to secure 3 points against Aspire as well, as our official signal for a change. Yet to see who it will be for. Neither of the Newcastle United players to my left look as if they're preparing to come on. Likewise with the Aspire players, so no substitute will take place. John Bolden to take this kick in. Back to Dan McClellan, now the designated goalkeeper of the champions. Over to Brad Bates, he's going to let it run across his chest. Fires an effort, goal bound, ricochets high, out of play. Kick in for Newcastle, very deep. Brad Bates very close. They're just calling for him to observe the 5 metres needed for a set piece to take place. Bolden to Rosie Dack, nearly finds Brad Bates unopposed on that right hand post, just locks up by Ethan Fisher. Ollie Crawshaw now, as he has done all game, trying to prevent John Bolden from imparting his influence. Rosie Dack can't quite make contact, so out of play for a Newcastle kick-in. This is nerve-wracking stuff for me, and I'm a neutral, as Brad Bates now has a shot on goal, cleared by Ethan Fisher, positioned brilliantly and just angled out of additional danger from Ollie Crawshaw. Into the box from Rosie Dack. Dan McClellan advanced out of his box to John Bolden, the most defensive of the 4 Aspire players. Ollie Crawshaw. Good work from Crawshaw. An opportunity almost, had he engaged that ball with a little bit more vigour. There was an open goal for him to register his 2nd of the game. Fisher trying to find that gap. Sam Smith set away, sends an effort, goal bound, couldn't quite get the connection once again. Newcastle knocking on the door to find their 2nd, and that's just a result of Aspire committing so many players forward in desperate pursuit of the equaliser. This truly is one of the best games of football I have ever watched, as Sam Smith just readjusts to try and advance down that left-hand wing, as you're viewing it, the right of Newcastle United's Back to McClellan, has to be careful. Sam Smith providing a brilliant screen for Newcastle and preventing the outlet down to Brad Bates, and an opportunity for Ethan Fisher to dispossess. Aspire really struggling to break that press. Down to Brad Bates. Contact from Ethan Fisher, flicked out to Ollie Crawsh. He's not quite as advanced as Fisher would have wanted. Approaching the final minute of play. Newcastle 1, Aspire 1. And as Crawshaw sends an interception goal bound, rotated spin kick from Boulding, puts it well clear, and it took a nick off a Newcastle chair, so surely the last opportunity. We are officially into the last minute. Contact between Armstrong and Fisher as they try and prevent the equaliser. Ollie Crawshaw has the task of just trying to wind this clock down now. Sam Smith does well to vacate the space. It's brilliant work from Crawshaw. Without question, the player of the game. Just calls from the substitutes of Newcastle to just take your time. Only seconds remaining in a fixture and result that could be beyond significant for the outcome of the season. No question, we've got West Brom tuning in, cheering on Newcastle, but as I've already spoken about, Newcastle and West Brom meet tomorrow morning, and with this kind of form, Newcastle will not fear anyone as Fisher just guides it down the court. We're into regulation time. Sorry, we've had the regulation time, now into anything additional added up by Paul Yates. There's been a few stoppages, as there was in the first half, but he didn't add too much on. Brings it back for a 2-on-1 in favour of Aspire. It's surely the last opportunity for them to find the equaliser. Quickly taken, as quickly intercepted by Ollie Crawshaw, who is going to do what he has done all game, just providing that defence with so much stability. Aspire almost looked deflated, shell-shocked, and they're going to have to go again. They'll most likely need West Brom to drop points now, as well as beating them tomorrow, if they are to be crowned champions. This takes them joint on this. Sorry, this favours West Brom so much in pursuit of the Premiership trophies. Crawshaw, who's just been everywhere, and that will be it. Cheers of jubilation around the Lee Westwood Sports Centre. Newcastle United Foundation 1, Aspire 0. A real upset in the context of the Premiership race. Thank you to all that have joined me, as is absolutely the case, Dylan. Ollie Crawshaw, without question, man of the match, or my player of the match. Just seemed to do everything, not to mention that fantastic finish to put them 1-0 up. If we bring up the live league standings in just a second, you'll see how much that favours West Bromwich Albion, who have the advantage in the race for the 23-24 PTC Therapeutics Premiership. So West Brom top now with both a game in hand and a point advantage over their title rivals. West Brom next up against Teesside, which is another incredibly significant game. Newcastle have leapfrogged Teesside in the standings, and they will be looking and hoping to add further damage to the two title rivals at the top. Thank you to all that have joined me, and I know there's been so many. I'll be back very shortly for West Bromwich Albion versus Teesside here at the Lee Westwood Sports Centre.